ready.
We're ready. We did it.
So ready. We stopped talking 3 seconds ago. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's exchange. Busy week.
Busy week. And I just wrapped up a call with somebody they were trying to figure out if she should schedule the call with me for today or wait till Monday. And I said, what the world doesn't know is the core team arrives in Austin on Sunday. So we are, well beyond the immersion into all things IIEX North America at this point. So yeah, looking forward to traveling and getting there and being with the core team and having a good couple days of setup before the big events.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I guess, well, we had said we'd do this at the end, but I guess, Carly, why don't you pop up? There we go.
Why off till the end, which you can do right now.
Last call. If you have not booked, you still can. You still register. Go to IIEX North America in Austin. Use the Exchange 30 code. I pulled the numbers yesterday. It looks like we're well over 1,000 attendees, and still pretty amazed by the quality and everything. So yeah, y'all, you need to be there. And if you can't, then go to IIEX Europe or IIEX Latin.
Yes, for sure, because the code will get you into any of the events. And I understand for some people who may, be in other regions of the world and still listening to us here, North America may not be the most convenient event to get to, or they just can't swing it, at this point. But there's other places, but nothing quite as special as North America. I mean, I think it's just, it's just a special place to be.
And without giving too much away, right? You should probably go to Austin and experience Austin.
This would be a great year to experience Austin if you never have and may never again.
We have a secret.
We're not telling. We're not
telling, but you'll hear about it next week. All right, let's jump in.
That was fun. What we really want is the world saying, where could they possibly be going? So, but that's not our story to tell, right? We'll
Not today, at least.
Not today, at least. So, but speaking of that, I do want to say for people listening early, next Friday, Lenny and I will not be doing this. Yeah. As you know, IIEX North America is Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday is our team's day to recover and share some experiences and share some meals and really decompress after a pretty intense week. So Friday is all Green Book in the little bubble that we're going to create for ourselves that day. So we will not be doing the exchange next week. We're keeping each other all to ourselves.
Yeah. So, but we'll be back the week after.
We will be back the week after for sure.
Sure. So you get a break from us next week. We'll miss you. Hopefully you'll miss us. And then
but please, if you are at North America, come up and tell us how you're feeling about this particular broadcast. Let us know what your thoughts are. Any one of us will be at the Green Book Lounge much of the day, which is really by the Green Book Help Desk. So you can find it that way. There's always going to be some of our team there, and you can just say, hey, I really just want to give you feedback on this product. We'd be really grateful for that as we, look at our programming through the end of our first year, because this summer we're going to be celebrating a year of this exchange. So cool stuff.
All right. Well, shall we jump into the news?
Yeah, let's jump into the news, but let's start with some, lighthearted, feel-good things. I think that, one of the things we wanted to talk about was the Marketing Research Education Foundation's annual event, their Race Around the World for Education event that kicks off. It takes place in May. It's aimed at raising funds to provide education for underprivileged children globally, hosted by the Marketing Research Education Foundation. So we'll share that link. Check it out. You can join as a team. It's virtual participation. You can join any number of teams that are doing this, but it's basically, clock your miles and share them. There's a portal that you can log in and say, hey, this is how far I've gone. And I think you can really, you can walk, you can run, you can bike. It's really just let's move on behalf of children everywhere. So it's a really great organization.
And lots of folks are involved with that, but I believe it was the brainchild of Steve Schlesinger, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to take credit away from anybody, but I always associate Steve with it. So
yeah, for sure. So so there's that. And then this other, important kind of milestone is that the applications are open for the QRCA's Insights Association and REBA's kind of collaboration on the Naomi Henderson Legacy Awards. So recognizing outstanding achievement and dedication to qualitative research in honor of Naomi, who, if you don't know Naomi or didn't know Naomi, she was not just a pioneer in the industry, but an amazing human being. Anyway, I could gush about her and get pretty emotional too. So I won't, but yeah, it's a great award, and you should consider getting on in there or nominating someone to get on in there.
Yep. All right. And then,
yeah, take it away. Now this is the portion of the program where we shift gears from kind of some feel good stuff to some, mergers, some acquisitions, some funding, the stuff that we should all know about.
Yep. So one of the interesting ones that popped out at me was Hootsuite acquires Talkwalker. And I've been a Hootsuite user since, like since they launched.
Since they launched, right? In the early 2000s, that is how those of us who were on multi-social media platforms at once, Hootsuite was what we used. And you had on your monitor, you just had all the different channels, and you could track what you were posting where and what was coming in where. It was a platform that was open all day for me at that time. I assume for you as well.
Absolutely. It still is.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not nearly as active on multiple social media channels as I used to be. But what is interesting though is it was a functional utility.
Yeah.
That I would argue was probably on the verge of maybe being displaced.
Yeah.
Because of generative AI, some of the platforms that are emerging there, our friends at Sparky, blah, 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 lots of different examples of companies that kind of did the same stuff. So buying Talkwalker, which is a social media analytics and monitoring platform, and now integrating that in to make it more of a truly, it's not just measuring and it's not just deploying your outputs, but getting all of those inputs back in and as an intelligence solution, I think is really powerful. And I saw that and thought, all right, that's great. And a great example of a company kind of reinventing itself, into something new and expanding the usability and utility. And now maybe they'll be at IIEX next year, right? I mean, they would be that. They're now coming into our side of the world. So,
and I think one of the things in this article or this release that was shared on MR Web is the idea that they've always been listening, but now they have the analytics to go along with that listening functionality. And I think that's what we need to be paying attention to, is what are the analytics right now as our industry kind of oozes into a different playing field.
Yeah. So really interesting. Another thing that caught our eye was Accenture continues their buying spree with companies with a research capability. So they acquired Unlimited Group, and this is all going as part of Accenture Song, which is really their kind of marketing and analytics division within Accenture. But they continue buying research suppliers or a variety of insight suppliers, probably a better way to say it, and market organizations or hybrids like Unlimited Group, because Unlimited Group owns Walnut,
right?
And so shout out to Walnut, which were pioneers in applied neuroscience, behavioral science in research. So the big consultancies continue to make waves in thinking how they transform their businesses as well, when intelligence could be
a dog moment. Just
no worries. There we go.
Down. All the way to stay. Okay.
No worries. I've got Bowie. I've got Bowie behind me. So
you're 2 minutes away from a golden retriever jumping on my lap, and I just need to say, I'm right here. Don't freak out.
It's all right. Let it happen. So anyway, just be aware of, right. There's this other group, the large consultancies,
Yeah.
strategy consultancies that have been building capabilities for years and play in this arena as both buyers and suppliers.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing a little more overt activity coming from Accenture.
Yeah,
So,
and also, the focus being on both AI and behavioral science, which
mhm,
it makes perfect sense, logical sense. Like, yes, those are two areas in particular. If you're, kind of venturing into this insight space, like, yeah, that's what we really want to, where it makes sense to lean into those two spaces.
yep.
Collectively, it's great. Yeah, good stuff.
Yep. Follow the money. If you guys, while we
Wow.
start with this stuff, because they're these are leading indicators,
Yeah,
right? Of where do a merger, do an acquisition takes funding.
yeah,
They're not just paying out of their pockets. There's
yeah,
banks. There's et cetera, et cetera. These are people are betting on certain directions,
yeah.
and
People whose job it is to know where to place the bets, right?
yes,
So, it's that's why we do follow the money in that way, right? Is because
that's
they're
right.
like they know things that we are paying attention to and wanting to learn ourselves. So,
Yep. Yep. Where's the ball going to be? Right.
yeah,
These are examples of where people think now maybe they could be wrong,
yeah,
but uh, that's why we bring up this stuff. So continue
yeah,
to pay attention to those things. So,
yeah,
and it's also changing the dynamic of of the ecosystem
yeah,
of what the industry looks like.
yeah, yeah.
All
Speaking of
right.
changing what the industry looks like, let's also talk about some product launches, right? Because I think,
Yes.
you know, this is good stuff. I love this Neurons edition, kind of adding AI copilot, which, you know, I'm like, does most people know what copilot is, right? But perhaps not. I'm not really sure. But to kind of optimize creative in the work that they do, which I'm like, that's great. Good for you, Neurons. So good stuff. You can tell me more, most likely.
Yeah. Well, Thomas Ramsey and
Yeah,
his team. I mean, Thomas has been a pioneer in
yeah,
not just applied neuroscience, but also they early on built an early stage AI solution for visual intensity measurement, and that's been a product I've been used for a long time. Um, the which is and they've just grown and built off of that data to now incorporate LLMs into more suggestions. Where kind of the early stage product duplicated where the eye would be drawn without
right,
a human needing to be involved. And now they're making recommendations based on all of their data on changing creative to increase engagement, et cetera, et cetera. Um, yeah, great solution.
yeah,
Couldn't happen to nicer folks. I mean,
yeah,
I like everybody in the industry. Thomas, we were friends. I like Thomas. We've been
yeah,
friends
yeah,
for a long
yeah.
time. Cool to see him continuing to kind of build out that vision.
Yeah, and also we're big fans of people who are bright and bringing. You could probably make a lot of money off of dimes in a jar each time I say true thought leadership, but Thomas certainly brings true thought leadership every time he takes the stage. So, bright people.
Yep.
Anyway, and mad respect for that. So cool stuff. So
Yep.
I don't know if these two individuals, these industry vets, Jem Faucus and Richard Owen, but they're veterans from Firefish and Crowd Lab. Do you know them both? You know of them?
We have corresponded. I've never met them, but Firefish, big qual shop
Yep.
in the UK.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about?
Yeah, so they've launched Qualify AI, so new company focused on automating qual using AI with the mission to automate qualitative research without stripping it of its humanity. Which I think anybody who's been paying attention to this and said, it's hard to do qual at scale. It's hard to get it to be automated because the whole kind of spirit of qualitative is depth conversations with individuals to really understand why they say the things they say and how well can AI really assist with that. How good is it at doing that? So yeah, so they have this mission to make it automated, to make it something that can be done at scale faster and without losing the integrity of the methodology itself. So anyway, so they've launched, and we'll have to check it out because we just found out about that launch this week.
Absolutely, and probably point out we are seeing more and more applications around AI in what we would normally think of as the qualitative arena than anything
Yeah,
else. So the era of scalable qual,
yeah,
it's here, guys. It's here. This is just one example of how the technology has unlocked that capability.
Yeah.
And I think it's hugely cool
Yeah.
that, to your point, to it's almost like this is the point of the singularity,
Yeah.
right? Through qualitative research of the human and the machine
Yeah.
in terms of capabilities. And it's a great use case.
Yeah.
So, and when you see folks like Jem and Richard that have been doing this for a long time, jumping on to that and pioneering it, again, follow the ball. These guys know what they're talking about. They've been doing qual forever. So
I'm gonna sidebar go back to North America and plug the GRIT presentation that I will be facilitating next week. Findings from the executive summary of the Insights Practice Report, and one of the things that I read in there that we discussed briefly yesterday was the number of qualitative researchers who are leaning into other tools, features, platforms, other ways of doing what they do. And I was really heartened to see that. Like, nope, they will not fall behind, right? They're leaning into kind of the tech evolution of the field. So anyway, that just gave me kind of an uplifting feel. Like, yeah, you do what you do, and now you do it with stronger tools and see where we go with it. So anyway, come to my particular presentation to learn more about that one. I think it's going to be cool, and that's one little spoiler alert that we'll talk about.
Yeah. And to build on that, I mean, that's going to be a theme through the whole report, which should be published. I think we're planning early May right now. God willing, and the creeks don't rise.
I love that little the creeks don't rise. That's just not something you hear in the Northeast too much.
That's a Southern thing. So I have to cross over. We have a creek in our property. Plus, to get off our road either way, we have to cross 4 bridges over creeks. So it's a very real thing.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry, I digressed.
Anyway, we digress. Yes,
I am a words person. I do like words. So when I hear a figure of speech that I hadn't heard before, I'm gonna have to pause on it. That's just what I do.
Yeah, I'll say it the right way. God willing, and the creeks don't rise. That is the appropriate way to say it.
Well, bless your heart. Let's go back to I say with no disdain. I actually love bless your heart.
Although, in the South, that is taken, that can be an insult as well.
I know, right? Didn't we talk about
bless your heart? That could be of like, you're so full of crap.
Yes. No, somebody shared with me. I'm sorry. We're totally digressing.
Go ahead.
Somebody shared with me like a, who was it? It was somebody up at Susan Newhouse. Oh my gosh. Shout out to my good friend, Susan Newhouse. Shared with me last year at the Creative Problem Solving Institute, all like a social media meme. It must have been on TikTok, like of all the different intonations of bless your heart or bless their heart, and what the interpretation of each intonation is. So anyway, if I find it, I'll share it with Carly, and she can put it out there in this thing.
There you go. It is definitely one of those things you pay attention. It has multiple meanings. So
what a fun little moment. Where were we? What were you talking about?
We're about to get into regulatory and ethical considerations in AI.
Oh, yes. Yeah, let's get into this because I thought this was interesting. So, Utah, I'm like, they lead the way. And this was just really interesting to me. Utah has a new law that mandates consumer disclosures when interacting with AI, prohibiting blaming AI for violations of consumer protection laws. Mm-hmm. So, like, you can't be ignorant. If your AI does something, it is your fault. So for those people who are building in AI functions, this is just the start. They're just the first state to do this, right? But companies will not be able to use the excuse, but AI did that, not us. It's your AI, you're accountable and responsible. I really like this law. I'm excited. I'm excited that, we're going to be acting at the state level for consumer protection.
Yeah. So let's broaden that out just a little bit. One, researchers, if you are engaged utilizing AI to assist in an interview in some form or fashion, and there's some flaw in AI either in the discourse or in the back end data and the protection of the data. You can't blame it. There's no excuse, at least in Utah. And you need to be conscious of that. I mean, it's becoming a very complex patchwork of both country and in the U.S. state rules and regulations that have to do with personal data privacy, and it's not so cut and dried as, oh, we have it in, this great secured database. The we don't know some of the vulnerabilities that may exist in some of the LLMs. It's still early, so be conscious. There's some of these things have teeth, and it is our responsibility as business owners and as an industry to factor this in as we're going forward. And it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to navigate. Our friends, this is what SMR and the Insights Association and the trade orgs are for, is to help navigate and do this. And I know that Melanie and her team are going to be on top of this. Pay attention, because we can't just assume that it's one size fits all anymore. It's not.
Really important stuff. Sidebar, we don't have the link, but it's big enough that you can all look it up. I've been listening to a series on the Ezra Klein podcast. Ezra Klein is with the New York Times, for those of you who don't know. Anyway, great series this week launching on AI, starting with the episode, like how you use it. And then there's a 3-part, it's like in 3 parts. It's it's kind of a good primer of what you should be doing to be using it right now, what you need to be mindfully aware of, and then where our future is going on this exponential curve. And that's the one I haven't gotten to yet. But anyway, a little sidebar for you there. It's good listening if you're interested. We're talking about AI again. Here we go.
Here we go. Not so much this week, though. Not so much.
Yeah, I know, a little less. So we'll stick away. But let's stay with the privacy thing, because this Gizmodo read that you found on data privacy legislation was also a good one. I hadn't seen this one. But I don't know all of the details, but there's a quote in this article that I think is really fascinating. So the article is, there's one big problem with the new federal data privacy bill. So we just talked about the state level. There's also things happening at the federal level, and it explores the ongoing challenges and historical context of creating effective federal data privacy legislation in the U.S. So it's a big topic to wrangle. This particular piece does a really good job with it. Did you see this quote that
I did? Why don't you read it out for the listeners?
So the author says, well, in 2024, it's possible that we may finally get a strong federal privacy law. I'll say it again. It's possible. It's also technically possible that frogs could rain from the sky over lower Manhattan, coating New Yorkers in a spring shower of amphibious guts. But is that actually likely to happen? So it's just a hilarious analogy of these things are all possible, but are they likely? And so anyway, it's just another good take on privacy laws and the ethical considerations of all this. And anyway, good stuff. If this is something you're interested in, check these topics out.
It is, and back to our previous point, right? We live in a federal system. Each state enacts their own laws, functions for our friends in Europe. Basically, each state in the U.S. functions as a country. And we're kind of our own version of the EU, right? Maybe that's the analogy. But there's not it's hard to do nationwide laws here. And states, many of them are going to enact their own, and they'll be similar, but in some cases they may be radically different. My bet is a law in Utah versus law in California or New York are going to be different, because the populations are different and the mindsets are different, et cetera, et cetera. So again, patchwork, not that's good, bad, or indifferent, just the way it is. You have to navigate it and understand it.
Yeah, exactly. No, very good point. As this is what it is. So how do we navigate? I think is a great, overarching reality for us to all embrace. Like, this is what it is. Let's embrace it. So
all right. There's a couple last 3 that are more just content we found really interesting. And this first one, if I can
please go. Go.
So my good friend Bob Moran, he is a partner in the Brunswick Group strategy consultancy. I'm sure if you have been here, well, Bob is, I consider him one of my mentors. We've kind of grew up together in the industry and both kind of like thinking about big picture stuff. And he's just incredibly smart and insightful guy. And anyway, so he wrote a piece that was just incredibly compelling. The moral case for and against market research. And I saw that and I thought, what? So I don't know about you, but there are times that I have engaged in projects over the years that, or had the opportunity to engage in projects that I said, I can't do this.
Mm.
I'm not going to feel good about doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I don't want to use my powers for evil
Yeah.
from a personal perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's others that I've been incredibly thrilled. Like I made a real difference in
Yeah.
doing that. And I expect all of us at some point have that line, that personal line, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now Bob takes that to the macro level
Yeah.
of, the on, you know, our job is to get people to buy more stuff, whatever that stuff is, whether it's an idea or a product, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I'm an ardent capitalist.
Yeah.
But there is another point, there's another level where I've had to acknowledge, boy, is it really kind of my job is to manipulate people into doing what the hell I want them to do. And is that okay? And Bob
Well,
kind of takes that tack of like, look, we
yeah.
need to weigh this out. There's all these benefits of what we do, but there's another lens where it's like,
It's interesting
yeah,
because yes, at the end of the day, you're trying depending on what area you work in, right?
sure.
So I just did a memory scan. I'm like, I don't think I've been involved in anything that I would classify as evil. Is it opportunistic on behalf of companies to learn how to better market to people? Yes. Much of the work that I've had the privilege of doing was really about meeting needs. I've been very fortunate in my space to really be understanding consumer needs and pain points and meeting those. So I've been able to mostly tell myself that the work that I did was actually good and not necessarily manipulation. I did have a period of time in the 2000s when I was fighting cancer and had this need to step back to say, and I'll say the phrase quite candidly, like, I just don't give a shit if anybody ever buys a Pop-Tart again. Like, it was like, I can't keep working for those sorts of things. And it's the equivalent of somebody on stage at IIEX Europe last year said, like, nope, this is not the time to talk to us about how to sell more candy in Ukraine. Like, there are times when you can't wrangle the consumerism, right? That you are a part of that machine of buy more, buy more, buy more. So I think that's more relatable to me.
Mhm.
And I think probably a lot of our listeners could right now take a little side excursion into their own brains about where have they been on the morality scale. So it's interesting and thought provoking, right?
Right, right. And that's right. It's just it's a really interesting read
Yeah,
that for a part that we don't talk about that often.
yeah, yeah,
So, and to be clear, Bob lands on the side of research is good. We land on
yeah,
the side
yeah.
of research is good.
Yeah,
Um,
I was making this assumption, right, that everybody knew that. Anyway, but
yes, uh, but like anything, it's a reminder we need to use our powers for good,
yeah,
because we do have immense powers.
yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I remember years ago, and I forget which company I was working for at the time, but have we talked about this? Philip Morris was a client,
no.
and we were just really trying to understand where do we stand
Mhm.
on the sale of cigarettes. I mean, we're going back to the 90s, right? So where do we stand on this? Like, what do we do here? Because this is a hard thing. And I imagine through the years, there have been people, and I know even just within the last few years, when people were doing like cannabis research and they're trying to understand where do I personally stand on
Mhm.
this particular topic or category or industry,
Mhm.
can I do this work with a clean
Absolutely.
conscience? That
There,
is universal, whether you're in it or not.
yeah, absolutely. There are topics and segments that I personally,
Yeah,
just for me as an individual, I will not engage in.
right.
Because I need to sleep at night, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The and I get that the clients may think they're doing good. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
Right.
So,
Right. And I think that's at a very individual level. I think that I was at a company that refused, they were like, I just don't think we want to do cannabis research. That's just not something we want to do. And then there are other people that are like, oh, I am all in. So that's just a current example of, the tobacco industry and the alcohol industry and a lot of vice industries,
sure.
gambling. I've met insights professionals who work for lottery agencies, and
Mhm.
there's real consequences to that work. for human beings, and they must all struggle with some decisions. Anyway, I'm totally digressed. So we'll come
No,
back.
but it was just an interesting thing, right? So
Yeah, really.
guys, check it out. Bob is a great writer, and he knows his stuff. And
Yeah.
this was just a really interesting perspective uh, from an industry luminary.
Yeah.
So all right, we
Now,
got two more.
time. Let's just share the last two articles without getting too in depth because they
Yeah.
were interesting. And one of them was this Forbes piece on how marketers are using qualitative data in the age of big data and AI. I mean, the topic is self-explanatory. Have a read if that's interesting to you. It was a Forbes article, and it was out. It was out like the last week of March, so I don't want it to be too dated. I want to share it now because we won't meet again for 2 weeks, and by then that'll be old news, right? So check that one out. And this other one, I couldn't access this one because it was on a paywall, but the ARF article that you found on the benefits of understanding consumers' values headline.
Yep. And it's just the ARF Advertising Research Foundation does lots of research on research, and they're exceptional for that. And this was more research they've recently done from demographic to psychographic and emotional targeting in marketing for improved consumer engagement and effectiveness. Advertising research, right? This is what they do.
Yeah.
So, and this was, the idea of understanding values. Another dimension, just showing how broad our industry is getting as far as the types of things that we measure and the insight that we deliver.
Yeah, gosh, I'm so psyched. Last plug, and then we'll go because it's time to wrap. You know, I preview all of the presentations at IIEX just to make sure there's nothing that's glaring or upsetting or, anyway, inappropriate. And there's two that I reviewed this morning. One, we have the New York Times. They're actually somebody from their advertising department, and they're going to be talking to us about their new gaming, right? Their new growth in the gaming apps. Anybody who's ever played Wordle or or the Mini or oh my gosh, the new one, which is Strands, I think. Anyway, so we'll be talking about that, and then BET is going to be talking a little bit about it too. So just so you know, if you're in that space, the advertising measurement space, we're talking about those too. So good stuff happening at IIEX. Gosh, I'm really gushing. I'm all about it all the time right now.
Well, absolutely, as it should be. So on that note, go. I'm sure that your schedule is packed. Go get stuff done so you can get on that plane on Sunday and go to Austin.
I will, and I will see everybody there. Lenny, I will talk to you from the road.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody, be well. We'll miss you next week. We'll be back the week after, and enjoy IIEX or whatever you're doing. Although if you're not at IIEX, you're just making a mistake.
Do you even exist? Are you even real?
We're not biased. Anyway,
not at all.
That's it. Everybody be well. Take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.